Hi everyone, RogueGold here, and today it is time to do our Division Hunted spoiler discussion. This is the new novel that just dropped a few days ago on January 2nd. Now I'm sure that not everybody has gotten a chance to read through it yet. If that is you, I sincerely hope that you will come back to this video when you do, but in all honesty, I couldn't wait any longer. I had people reaching out to me with their thoughts upon finishing it, and there's just so many big things to go over with this, including, like how the title suggests, how I think this teases the direction in which the story might be headed for the Division 3. So consider this your final spoiler warning. We're going to be covering everything in the Division Hunted. If you haven't picked this up, it is the closing chapter of this new trilogy of novels. They are all excellent books and stories all the way through, in my opinion. I'll leave the link for the book and my non-spoiler review of it down in the description if you want to check that out. Also, I am rather sick right now, so I apologize if you can hear that in my voice, but this train stops for nobody and nothing, so here we are. Alright, getting into it, mainly I want to discuss some individual key pieces of information in the book because I think there are some very interesting tidbits. But just quickly, overall, as I said in my non-spoiler review, I adored this book. The pacing of it, the non-linear storytelling, the action, the culmination of all of our allies assaulting the Albuquerque base, the lore, the hunter, it's just all so good. And it makes for a fantastic closing chapter to this Crossroads saga. But let's get to some of those individual pieces I mentioned because we got a lot to go over. The presence and having Natalia Sokolova as a side character in Hunted was a shock. And this was easily, I think, the most personal and in-depth look we've had at her character yet. You really get to see firsthand how cold, cunning, and deceptive she is. And I thought one of the best examples of that was the flip where, earlier in the story she's very hospitable towards Myra, and then later on in the epilogue she says, "I can't wait to drag her out into the street and shoot her like a dog." I mean, that was very dark, and I think that shows Natalia's true colors very well. You also have characters in here like Keith and that unnamed aircraft pilot, right? Natalia's grip on some of these people is that of pure terror. And I'm sure, and it has been previously suggested, that some of the, soldiers and lower ranking members of the Black Tusk are glad to be there just because it's some semblance of structure in this apocalypse. It's clear that many within their ranks feel that they have to out of necessity, and that if they go out of line, they don't feel safe. So, Natalia is not really the same kind of villain as Keener, right? They play kind of different roles, but I think her as this big villain has definitely grown on me a lot more after this novel. So I'm really just liking the overall direction of things that they're going with her character. Beyond that, however, we get confirmation that Natalia wants Myra to eliminate the Ortiz-designed weakness that allows Isaac, Anna, or Diamond to be able to access any of the other programs undetected. We did learn about this in the Descent comms in the Division 2 a little while back, but it's good to get a lot of greater context on that here. One thing I also noted was that we hear Natalia say that she tried knocking a hostile system offline, but it also knocked theirs offline too, and that's when she discovered the weakness. What I'm unsure of, I'm gonna have to go back and check, is if this is in reference to Season 11. I can't remember if this happened when they attacked the White House, or perhaps she is referencing a future event that's either going to take place in the DLC or otherwise. I'm not sure. In this, we also get the answer to a big question a lot of people have had about the nature of Diamond as a program. In this, we learn that it has no AI voice or system like Isaac or Anna. Rather, it is stated that it's basically a raw data computation system that feeds the information directly to the users, and that does therefore make it harder to adapt to or learn, but clearly it's worked out for the Black Tusk. Alright, and then this next part is total theory work for me, but I had to throw it in because it's me. There's a bit where they go into about nanite healing technology in this, and my mind immediately jumped to, this is how they can get more creative with skills, in particular with healing skills in the Division 3. I remember back when Division 2 came out, they talked about how the Hive was meant to be slightly more realistic than the support station or like the first aid in Division 1. So again, hear me when I say this is full-on speculation, but I think it would be cool if they actually incorporated that into like growing technology in the Division 3, where maybe we could return to instant burst healing because they're using this nanite technology. Who knows, but I'd be curious to hear your guys' thoughts about that and just the, in general, the nanite tech stuff that they talk about here. We also get the reveal of Agent Thaddeus Green being the hunter that was tracking Myra down throughout the story, and that was a character that we were also introduced to in this book. To start, any scene with the hunter in this was excellent. It was brutal. It was vicious. It's also very fitting for them to drop this right after the Division 2's Year 5 Season 2, where we now get our second confirmation that hunters are indeed Division agents. This is why, if you were paying attention, that I was a little tight-lipped on my speculation with the recruiter after I got to read this book a few months back. I had a feeling that it was going to be some agent, after I learned that, but I didn't really want to say anything there. But an interesting detail that they throw in is that they mention that Thaddeus has seniority authority as an agent, right? He's been around since the start of the program. And we know that that's similar to Johnson, right? He was involved with Homeland and Cal before the green poison, unlike I think a lot of agents who were kind of more passive and they were just waiting around in their normal lives until they got activated. Now, it is important to note that being a senior agent doesn't just constitute that you're a hunter, right? Brenda is as well, who's been in all these books. She unfortunately died at the end, but she wasn't a hunter. So who knows, but it does give us, I think, an interesting clue as to who might be more suspicious of in the future. Also, Hunted makes me think that we don't fully understand Cal's motivations. I mean, he's allied with Natalia, we've known that, and we see in the epilogue that they're still together, but it's becoming increasingly hard for me to believe that his goal could just be to outright destroy the division, right? In this, you see the Black Tusk attack the Texas Division Corps, but Thaddeus, the same agent who ends up being the hunter, is protecting it. And so with all of the other hunter plants that we have to assume are around the nation, why not just sabotage things from the inside if you really want to take down the division network? So I still think that Cal has his own agenda in mind aside from Natalia, but we'll see how that plays out. On a similar note, we do get to briefly hear from Heather Ward, who was Johnson's cellmate from the early Division 2 marketing. There were a lot of people wondering what is up with her and Caleb Dunn, so now we know she is alive. Alright, and then the last big point to cover before this Division 3 talk is some more mentions we get of this upcoming big event. Now, previously, I dubbed this as the November event, but in this book, I don't think there are any dates or references. But in multiple places in the book, they talk about how the division no longer has any lawful authority. Two quotes that I pulled from the book to back that up. If it was that important, it wouldn't be the division handling it now, would it? Who do you work for again, exactly? What operational authority do you have? And then the second one, as far as most people know, we've been shut down. So, yeah, clearly that has not happened yet, and as for when it will, we don't yet know. My leading theory is still that this all has to do somehow with the Brooklyn DLC, right? Maybe there's some big play by Natalia and Cal to delegitimize the division, and in turn that legitimizes the Black Tusk. We'll find out. Alright, let's now talk about how I think this all sets up the Division 3 in some fashion. Mainly the timeline. As a quick refresher, the events of the division as a whole began on Black Friday, I think 2015. The years have always been very purposely, I think, avoided in this franchise, but we'll just go with that for now. Division 1 itself then takes place, I think, in January 2016, so just over a month after the outbreak and all of that. The Division 2 then takes place that following summer, 6 to 7 months later. Recruited, the first novel in this trilogy, takes place around September and October of 2016, so it's kind of right in line with the current Division 2 story in Year 5 Seasons 1 and 2. Then Compromise, the second book, jumps way ahead to April 2017, so it was already far into the future, and now we have Hunted, and it jumps ahead again, to the last point of the epilogue ending on August 29th of, again, don't take this too seriously, but 2017. So there's some really big takeaways here. There has been a lot of speculation on if or when Natalia or Cal will become manhunt targets, or if they'll be taken out in the Brooklyn DLC. This pretty much confirms, no, they are alive 10 months into the future from where we currently are in the Division 2. And as I pointed out a moment ago, the time between the Division 1 and 2 was only 6 to 7 months. So I think the time frame that Hunted takes place in could easily be the Division 3 timeline. Now yes, Division 2 story is going to go on for quite a while, but from Warlords of New York in Season 1 of the Division 2, that happened in August, and Year 5 Season 2 is happening in mid-October. So the past 4 years of storytelling in the Division 2 has happened over the course of 2 months in-game. Now, it's not impossible that we might progress a bit further over the coming seasons and years of content, but I'm pretty confident in saying that we will not reach Hunted's timeline in the remainder of the Division 2's life. So this leads me to my main theory, that the big confrontation and war between us, I can't really say the division anymore, but our group and Natalia, the Black Tusk, Homeland the Hunters, that will be the central plotline of the Division 3. And I think this is kind of perfectly encapsulated by the last lines of the book spoken by Myra, where she says, "There's a storm on the horizon. I can feel it. Black Tusk, these hunters, it all adds up to something and it's going to be a problem. But no matter what happens, I know this with absolute faith. Come what may, we'll face it together." Now look, I'm sure that is not intended to be like a direct Division 3 tease in any sort of way, but it does kind of give me chills because that's what it sounds like. And because this is all so far in the future and because we know that these enemy threats are still around, I think this is a real possible glimpse at what awaits, where we see our faction of agents, maybe even some rogues at that point further in the story progression, Myra and her cell, people like April Kelleher, Barden Schaefer, the JTF, right? Everybody comes together to take on Natalia, Cal, the Black Tusk, and the Hunters. And it really is just that all-out war. I don't know, that's just my wild Division 3 speculation, do with it what you will. Alright, and then the final thing to mention here, I definitely saved the best for last. Rogue Agent Gold. This character comes into the story right at the end, right, to help out with the Albuquerque assault. And upon arrival, his first line is, "Hey everyone," and then, says all this stuff. When I first read this, I was in shock. I was like, there's no way. So I didn't automatically assume anything. To do that and then to end up being wrong would look hugely pretentious. So I reached out to Tom, the author, and inquired, and he confirmed that this is indeed a reference to ya boy. And I still cannot believe it to this very minute. RogueGold is an effing character in The Division. I mean, that is beyond an honor. It's beyond fucking cool to get immortalized in The Division in this franchise that I've been a fan of for so many years. It's unbelievable, truly. Like, RogueGold is canon? How is that a thing? Now, I did seemingly die, although I will say you never see a body. But if I were to die from a hunter is really the only way I could ask to go out. Jokes aside, out of all the incredible stuff that I've been so fortunate to be able to do because of this channel, this was and will forever be another level of pure awesomeness. I really can't get over it. So thank you so much to Thomas for even thinking or considering to do that. It really means the world. How cool, man. How damn cool. Alright my friends, that is my breakdown and spoiler discussion of The Division Hunted. As I said, so many huge revelations, things that this potentially sets up for the future. It's a lot to process. I would love to hear all of your guys' thoughts about any and everything that we went over. Whatever your reactions, theories, etc. are to reading The Division Hunted, leave it all down below. Can't wait to read through them. That is going to do it for me today, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. RogueGold. Ow.